All right, so to continue our discussion on the 70s, we will begin with the president who replaced Gerald Ford. After Ford pardoned Nixon, he was replaced by Jimmy Carter. Now, this president is kind of known as a weak leader. He's kind of seen as an embarrassment, similar to Neville Chamberlain down here. And a lot of people disliked Jimmy Carter after the first year. Poor decisions, just kind of a weak leader and just no good. But we'll talk about some good things that he did, one being the Camp David Accords. Now, Camp David is a vacation getaway spot for the president. This is where he or she will go to just take some time off. Well, President Carter decided to use this location to discuss peace in the Middle East. I know you all remember the OPEC energy crisis situation. We helped the wrong people in the Middle East, and others in that region did not like that. And so we just want to get rid of the problems. We don't want any issues with these people. So President Carter invited Middle Eastern leaders, the ones of Egypt and Israel, to come to Camp David and discuss peace, and it was effective. They did settle the issues, right? Now, moving away from oil to racial tension, racial discrimination, whatever you want to call it. We oftentimes hear about discrimination being against a person of color or a female or someone gay or something like that. Someone in the minority, we'll say. In this case, it was a white male trying to get into medical school. But the medical school had this thing called affirmative action, basically meaning the school's too white. So they want to save 16% of their admissions for minority students. So fill it up to about 84% white. That's as much as they wanted to go. And they want to have at least 16% of the students of color. But because of this, despite he had perfect scores, despite he had better scores than the minority students that they were admitting, this gentleman could not get in. So he sued. Okay, he sued and won, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decided that was reverse racism. Just because he was white, he was not allowed in, and they got rid of that affirmative action. All right. Again, I told you that Carter was seen as a very, very weak leader. And on his watch in the year 1979, something happened in Iran. We have buildings all over the world called embassies. This is where employees for the American government work while overseas. They stay there. Sometimes they live there. And it's pretty much a safe haven from the outside. So what you need to know is that in 1979, some students, some protesters in Iran, they busted down the gates of the embassy, and they came in and held 52 Americans hostage. And this lasted over a year. They did not like the U.S. for a number of reasons. Number one, we helped put a leader there in power who mistreated them in Iran. Number two, they hate that leader that did them wrong. That leader was dying of cancer. We allowed him to come to the U.S. to treat his cancer, something they could not do in Iran. And the Iranian people did not like this one bit. So that's reason number two. And that's pretty much it. The Iranians rioted and took over. All right. So being the president that he is, President Carter attempted to rescue the hostages using warships and helicopters. It didn't work. It was like something from a bad X-Men comic in the 60s. He's like, we're going to fly a helicopter overhead and we're going to, like a claw machine, pull them out. Needless to say, didn't work, and he's pretty goofy. We did get those hostages back eventually, but it was not until the next president came into office, which was Ronald Reagan. Right. So the last thing of the 70s is the year 1979, and we're seeing eerily similar patterns today. The USSR, also known as Russia, invaded Afghanistan. See if this sounds familiar, 2023 students. The USSR broke UN rules and illegally invaded Afghanistan in 1979. They just did the same thing to Ukraine. It's pretty crazy. So just like nowadays, the U.S. and other nations were furious. And, at least the president today actually sent military, sent aid. He's helping Ukraine. He wants the military involved, and he wants to stop the communist Russians. Jimmy Carter said, well, we're going to boycott the Olympics. What a joke. Okay, the Olympics were the year after that, and he didn't send troops. He didn't say you broke international law and now we're going to punish you. He did like Neville Chamberlain. He appeased the USSR. He said, we're not going to fight you, but we won't come play with you in the Olympics. So he is oftentimes categorized as a joke of a president. But hey, this is free America. So I will let you form your own opinions on that. So until we meet next time, class, good night and good luck.